This is Michael J. Coyle with Metal Temple, and I'm here with the one and only Abaddon. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing very well. I'm doing better now because I found the whiskey.
Oh, you found the whiskey. There you go. Yeah. So, first of all, thank you for this opportunity. I mean, I've been a fan of the band since I was back in high school, and honestly, it's a kind of surreal moment to actually be hanging out with one of the original members.
Absolutely brilliant. Great to be back in London, really, because we've pretty much avoided London for a long time. You know, we've avoided being in England, so
yeah.
It's great to be here. It's a very small venue, but it looks like a proper rock and roll venue, you know.
I've been to this venue quite a few times. Last time I was here actually was for Vader when they did their own tour this year actually, and now it's back to the whole cycle. Actually, last time I was here, I was actually interviewing Peter from Vader.
Right,
nice guy. That's actually one thing, because I actually found having both bands in the same bill pretty cool, because Vader, I know, are big fans of the band.
Yes.
When they released the album Necropolis, they did a cover of black metal.
Yeah.
I mean, out of curiosity, how did this tour come together between two classic bands doing two classic sets?
It was done very, very quickly after we announced that we were going to be together again. All the live dates came together really quick, and Vader wanted to be on the tour, and it was a no-brainer. You know, it was like, we got to work together. So all the bands on tour came together at the same time, and it just looked like a really good bill. So really, very good European style bill. So why not, you know?
So the tour's been going on for quite a bit now, hasn't it? Over in certain parts of Europe and other parts of the world that I guess you don't get to see bands like Venom and Vader play. I mean, the whole idea. I mean, how long has the tour initially been going on for, if you can remember how many days been going on now?
I think we started in June or July, and it was it's been going on for a long time, but it's been little bits, and it was always really leading up to this long, you know, gig after gig after gig after gig. That was always the one that we needed to get behind, you know, and start really working hard, doing a lot of press. I mean, when we went to Japan, we did a lot, you know, lots of press in China, and it's about getting the identity across and making everybody aware that this, you know, specifically us two are working together again, and that's what it's about, you know?
I mean, looking back, I mean, this is the prime evil era of Venom. I mean, it's pretty cool because a lot of people always call it Venom version 2 because when Tony joined, and of course Kronos was no longer part of the band. But honestly, in my own opinion, I've seen Kronos, and now I've seen Tony live as well. And honestly, like I said before, I've always preferred Tony's style of showmanship. I first saw Tony with Empire of Evil supporting Obituary,
right?
And honestly, I really thought that he had a better stage presence than Conrad.
I think so too. But I think from a fan's point of view, I think they're both very strong frontmen. I think they're both a little bit different to each other. But the thing that I object against is when people call Tony a copyist. He's nothing like Conrad, you know, as a copycat. He's very, you know, okay, yeah, he's got a gruff, low register voice, puts across the macho image, but he's very different. He's his own man. He always was. I mean, somebody asked us yesterday about why didn't he change his name to a more kind of satanic name. It's like, because he already had that personality. He was a Demolition Man before he was ever anything to do with Venom. So his stage persona was already huge.
So I mean, as a fan, really, I've always wanted to ask, really, looking back at the years of being one of the originators of the name for a subgenre of metal, how do you feel about actually birthing that style of music?
But it's humbling, you know. It's really, especially when you see bands like we're travelling with, and these guys were like, you know, I mean, they weren't even born when we were doing black metal, and it's just absolutely amazing, you know, because it's these guys that take this thing that we give birth to, and they take it and they move it on and they push it. And that's what you want from, you know, if to use an analogy, if they were our kids, you want your kids to do better than you want your kids to be more assertive than you want your kids to be bigger than you know, better than you, and that's what these bands are. And they're taking this genre, the different genres that we were part of. We weren't a band that only did black metal, we were death metal, speed metal, thrash metal, black metal, and of those 4 or 5 genres, there are thousands and thousands of bands now. Famous bands, big bands, selling lots of records and selling places out, and it's very, very humbling. You know, it's a huge scene. And when you bring all those bands back to one place, it just comes back to Venom in 1980 in a little town in Newcastle called Wallsend.
You know, I actually remember when I first found you guys. I was actually, I think I was like 12 or 13, and I was just getting into my high school education.
Right.
And I just saw this picture, this really evil-looking image of a devil, and then I looked into what it was, and I found the sound black, and I thought, this is something different, something I could really get into. And honestly, Venom was one of the bands that inspired me to start playing guitar and doing vocals as well, because I see Venom as part of a three, really, because you had Venom, Bathory, and Celtic Frost, who all had similarities, but all kind of had their own thing going on with sharing stuff like death metal, black metal, speed metal.
Yeah.
I mean, looking back at that, would you ever think you guys were a part of a massive creative process and inspiring something that allowed people to think in a different view of music?
Yeah, I mean, our part of that was to say, we all had these great guitar players, great guitar gods and drum gods who we sort of worshipped, but they were playing this style of music, like Ian Pace and people like this, Richie Blackmore. They're playing all this kind of stuff, and they're like, they're playing like stuff where you can't, when you hear it, you don't think you're going to be able to play it. But the stuff that Venom did, straight away we said, listen, you pick up a guitar or you pick up a drum kit, you'll be able to do this. You will be able to do this. And that's what we said.
And looking back at the years as well, would you say, besides your old inspirations, are there any new drummers out there that have inspired you as a musician?
There are lots of drummers who I think are extremely good, like Lombardo and obviously Gene. There are incredible drummers, but I don't think they could inspire me. I'm not a person who particularly likes playing drums. I'm not that interested in drumming. I'm more interested in being part of a band. I like being somebody that is in a band, and I like being part of all the things that go with that. And that inspires me more than anything else. I like to be inspired by kind of inspiration itself, by people who are fired up and people who want to do something, and people who attest to things, and it's like that's my inspiration.
And what was it that actually made you want to start playing music, if I may ask?
Just that. I used to be involved with sport quite a lot, and I found that was very insular. It was very single-minded, whereas I wanted to be in a team thing. And when I started listening, the first thing I heard was Black Sabbath and Deep Purple and Free. And when I heard these bands and realised that they were great mates together, they were drinking together, they were going on tour together and having fun, and it was like, that's what I want to do.
So in the past couple of years, I've not actually heard what you've been doing recently until Venom Inc. started going on. What have you been doing these past couple of years?
I did an Abaddon album, and was working on a second one, but I basically just stepped away from music. There was a lot of things, about 3 or 4 things that happened at the same time, and I got pretty pissed off with it and just thought, well, I'm going to do it, just create music for myself and for the guys I was doing it with. And we put together like 30-40 songs with different guys, and we had a blast, we had a great time, and that's, to me, is what it's about,
So when you're not on tour or playing music, what do you like doing in your free time? Besides the whiskey.
More whiskey. No, I like art. I like creating art, and I like creating different art stuff that's never been tried before.
Really?
Yeah. I do a lot of stuff with hot wax, which is it's sort of using a hot iron and melting wax together, and just you just go for it on the canvas, and you can turn it around and you can see different things, and some things work and some things don't. But
so when the Venom Inc. shows were announced, how do you think the crowd reaction was for that announcement?
It was instant. It was instant and it was big. It was very, very big. Otherwise we would never... We were asked to play one gig at Keep It True. And Empire of Evil were booked to do that. And the guy who puts the show together, Oliver, rang me at home and said, okay, in theory, would you get up on stage with these two guys and do just some Primeval songs, maybe 4 or 5 songs? And I was like, yeah, I don't see why not. There was going to be no rehearsals. We were still kind of not speaking to each other for like 10 years or something.
Oh wow.
And we don't even remember what it was about, but we hadn't spoken, we hadn't talked to each other. And they said, will you go? And I was like, okay. And they were like, well, you won't rehearse, you won't meet them, they'll already be on stage, there'll be like 5,000 people in the crowd. You just have to go on stage and see how people respond to you. Excuse me. No worries. And just see how people respond to you. Which was a little bit daunting, a little bit strange. And I kind of said, okay, let's just try it. So I was standing backstage watching these guys play. The crowd were great. It was really good. And then they sort of came off and they did like a mock change, and we set up a new intro tape. And then I jumped up and we started into Primeval, and the crowd were incredible, and it was just huge. And we did like a meet and greet thing. And we had to just stop after like an hour or something. It was just too many people. And
I can imagine.
It was the one time that I began to appreciate the internet, because while we were doing the meet and greet thing afterwards and signing and whatever, Tony was doing this and he was showing me his phone. And this guy who was a promoter, I hadn't even heard of him, said, could you do these dates? And there was China, there was Japan, there was Australia coming in, New Zealand, there was all this European stuff, and he was just scrolling up these lists of dates. The guy was saying, in theory, would you play this tour? And we were like, he said, okay, what do you think? Was it a one-off, or do you want to do this again? I was like, if this is true, these dates are true, then yeah, I want to do it. Who wouldn't want to do that? And that's what we're in the middle of now. And it all the time. This morning we found another 6 weeks of American dates, back to back.
Oh wow!
And all the New Zealand dates are booked now, and the Australian dates are.
I remember standing on stage.
There's about a week of them with gaps in between, so all of those need to fill out and ends in a full Australian tour.
I remember one of the
Oh wow!
So it all came from like maybe half an hour with 4 songs. But that's how Venom originally. All of the things that are happening are the way Venom originally started. We just started as a kind of a 3 guys having fun, to do maybe 4 or 5 songs, like demo songs, and it just exploded very, very quickly.
That's incredible. I mean, it almost feels like a class reunion, doesn't it?
It's that type of thing, yeah. I mean, English people don't really get that. We do it, but not very much. But it is like a class reunion. Yeah, it's like getting back together with people that you feel comfortable with.
It's like you guys haven't seen or spoken to each other in a long time. Suddenly, it's like an invitation, and it's just like a big reaction.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really incredible to see this lineup back and going, because I remember going to watch Empire of Evil, and they had Primeval shirts on sale, and I always thought that as a hint as to I wonder if they're trying to say something.
Well, that's what I mean. When I kind of got in contact and I said, that's my logo and it's my design and everything like this, so Tony said, yeah, okay, we'll send you some shirts, and it was like tongue-in-cheek, And I was like, yeah, I know this is going to happen, and I know what this is about, and like it was, yeah, like you say, it was like a hint.
So, I mean, really with the shows that have passed so far, how do you feel each country has responded in their own way?
Very differently. The gig at Barrowegg the other day, the open air, the festival, was incredible. You couldn't hear Well, you could hear the band on the monitors, but I heard this strange thing that I'd never heard before. And because we were in a tent, and the crowd were absolutely packed, and they were outside the tent, this noise I heard, I thought was something to do with the shape of the tent. And when the kind of lights hit the crowd, I realised they were singing Countess Bathory and sort of parts of black metal, and they were louder than the band. And I was like, that's never happened before. I've never heard a crowd that are this loud. But then when you go to Japan, and people are very very humble and very respectful, and people are overawed to be in the same space as you, and they say, I've waited for 30 years and 20 odd years to see you, and it's and then they're almost shaking, and it's like that kind of passion. You can't manufacture that.
No, you can't.
You can't manufacture that, and that's what this band was about, and that's why it was such a huge thing to do. So very different. Every place we go is very different.
So before I came down to London, I have a DVD of one of the old shows from the Hammersmith, I think. I remember what it's called. It came in a deluxe reissue of Black Metal. My grandparents got me.
Okay.
And I'm looking back and I'm thinking of how the band's actually evolved, and honestly I feel that right now with this whole Iron Steel era that's going on, I feel this might be one of the best versions of Venom to actually come back, because as I said, I watched Conrad's version over at Hellfest, and honestly I felt there was something missing.
You guys are busy now.
Yeah.
And looking back at it, I think tonight will actually be one of the best times I'll get to see you guys. I've been watching the online footage, and it's just like that energy is just so incredible.
It's because when we first started, the energy was real and it was shocking, so people didn't know how to take it. Because you've now got a reference point, and we're doing the same kind of the soul is there, the heart is there, but people have now got a reference point, and they can say, okay, this is the same as that, or better than that, and they can look at Conrad and say, yeah, you're playing all the songs in the right key, in the right order, and it's all in tune. Drummer's great drummer, guitar player's great player. Conrad is still trying to be Conrad, and he's doing a perfectly good job of it, but it doesn't have the heart and soul that this band does, because you have the reference point of when we did it the first time around, and you can say, yeah, that sounds like that, it feels like that, it feels like you're going to fall off the stage at any moment, it feels like the drum kit's going to fall over. That is so punk, it's so full on, that you can't replicate that. You can't do a tarted up Kiss version of it. It's just, that's what it is.
So I guess we have enough time for 2 more questions. One of the last questions is, this has always been a curiosity of mine, because I never looked into this. What actually caused the split between the band and Conrad?
Which time? Any of them.
Any of them.
All of them. Mainly his personality. His personality is very macho. It's very stupid, and that's the same as me. And we kind of, it's like two bulls all the time,
clashing horns
all the time. And I always said, my argument was that if Conrad says black and I say white, if Jeff comes down on either side, then I'll agree. If he comes down against me, I'll agree. But I want to be able to argue my side to try and convince him that he's wrong. But if they say, you've got to sign this contract, we both think A, B, C, then I'll say no, because this, and this. But once they both say you've got to do it, then I'll do it. But I'll explain why I don't want to do it. But getting that to happen, getting somebody to come down on one side or the other was proven very difficult, and the personality between Jeff and Conrad didn't work like that. So Jeff would get pissed off with something Conrad would do, and instead of trying to argue it out, he would just walk away.
And the final question is, do you have any words to say to the fans listening at home?
In America?
In the UK and America.
In America especially, yeah, because
I'm from Florida.
In the UK, we never did enough work in the UK, and we're very aware of that. And it's something that we're on a roll right now. And people are putting shows in, and if any promoters in the UK of this sort of size venue and up want to do some stuff with us and want to get kids involved, and the kids want to do it, come at us. Yeah, we want to do it. But the States and right across throughout Florida, through Texas, up to New York. The other version of Venom have been avoiding this for years and years and years, and I know it's a massive bugbear because there are thousands of fans out there. And I only just this morning saw the schedule for America, and there were like 4 pages of dates, and I'm guessing about 6 weeks back to back. Maybe 30, 40 dates, and there'll be gigs like this. Will be bigger gigs, and we just want to get out and play. We want to be playing to as many people as we can, and, because I think again you have to go back to us and Slayer and Exodus to go back and find like a full American tour, and that's ridiculous. It's far too long ago.
Well, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. It's been a real pleasure to actually be able to talk with you. And
thank you for not stealing me whiskey.
I'm an ale man. This has been Michael J. Coyle, and I have been talking to Abaddon. Stay tuned for more. Thank you for listening.